Okay, great to be here tonight, and certainly a vast range of corporate offerings you're looking at tonight. I'll be sort of presenting on the mining industry and specifically, of course, my company, which is, over the last year or two has really taken on what I describe as an energy metals focus, and that's a subject that has enormous currency at the moment because of what we're sort of seeing now with pollution and the introduction of electric vehicles. I'm the CEO, Savannah Resources. We actually have a range of 3 projects. The first one being a copper project in Oman that has clearly an EV focus. Copper is going to be a very sort of vital element in the rollout of EV fleets and the charging infrastructure that will actually be required. The second project is a lithium project in Portugal. Portugal's known for many things. One of them is not lithium, but that's something that we're very much looking forward to correct in the minds of those of us who live in the European community. We bought it earlier this year. It's in one of the better, or it includes some of the best projects in Portugal, and we're particularly excited by its medium-term potential. It's followed up by a very significant mineral sands project in Mozambique called the Mutamba project. We're in joint venture with the international mining major Rio Tinto on that project. Our plan is to really develop as a mid-tier mining group. I think you'll find with a lot of mining companies, they're almost like VC companies, really. They have a singular project and a singular focus to take that singular project forward. Most of the really valuable companies out there are generally not single-focus companies. The Rios, the BHPs, they're companies with a diversified portfolio and a pipeline of projects. And we've been deliberately looking to develop a pipeline of projects. Near-term copper production out of Oman, medium-term lithium developments in Portugal, and for the 2020s, our world-class heavy mineral sands project in Mozambique. By the way, that's a drone photo of the site in Mozambique at the moment. We have, I just talk briefly about the board and senior management. Very proud to have both a very capable and supportive board. Our major shareholder is a major Omani group called the WJ Towel Group. They have a 29.9% shareholding in our company. And I'm also supported both by executive directors and executives who allow us to do all the things that we do. We have around about 6 nationalities in our company working for us. We have about 50 people on staff. I thought I'd just quickly have a look at Oman for you. Oman has had a very long and venerable history of copper production, really going right back to the start of the Bronze Age. A lot of the Bronze Age works that occurred were a result of copper mined originally in Oman, and off and on that area of Oman has been producing copper until very recently. Interestingly, we look to be the next new copper developer in the country. Oman's becoming a little bit more prominent because of it's becoming quite a popular tourist destination. Its appeal as a destination remains, but it also is very appealing from our point of view as providing us with a very sort of serious range of, albeit relatively small to medium-sized deposits, but deposits with very high head grades. As they say, grade is king, and grade really ensures that you've got a durable, robust project. And in the context of a very strong copper price at the moment of over $3 a pound, we think we're brilliantly sort of positioned to drive the project into production and generate some superior economic returns. That's particularly complemented because the projects themselves have metallurgically simple ores. There's a lot of regional infrastructure available to us. We're not building mining camps, infrastructure roads or any of these things. All of those things are available to us. And we're only about 20 kilometres from the export port of Sohar. We'll be developing a series of mines in Oman, but the first two will be, one is called Mahab 4, which is an underground mine. You can see that one on the left. And the second one is Mikhail South. It's an open cut mine. Both of those will be small but high grade developments. And we're looking to layer in further production from other deposits on our tenement areas. We're getting to the final stages of completing our studies around the development. It's quite developed at the moment. We're having a little bit of a wrangle with the government over some of the government charges. We want to make sure that we do in fact do the best deal possible from the point of view of our shareholders, and once those elements are locked in, we'll be announcing the results of the study, both the economic results and reserves and grades, etc. We've been making quite good progress in terms of the licensing. It's quite a complicated process in Oman. You've got to actually get approvals from eight ministries. We've had, I think it was 4 on Mahab 4 out of the 8 and 5 on Mikhail South out of the 8. And that's moving along quite well. We hope to have all the ministerial approvals in hand by the end of this calendar year, and the final mining lease application itself should follow a month or two after that. So we'll be sort of well poised to kickstart mining in the first half of next year. So, as I say, it will be one of the smaller copper mine developments globally. It's certainly not going to do terribly much for sort of helping out around the delivery of supply to sort of meet the escalating demand for copper that we're sort of seeing internationally at the moment. But it'll be certainly a very favourable result from our shareholders' point of view. Just like to sort of cover off on the next few elements. We've had a lot of success during 2017. As I said, we're looking to make a final investment decision in the early part of next year. And we're looking to layer in further mine developments after we go into production in 2018. Just moving, I'm conscious of time and a bit to cover. We haven't never really spoken very much publicly about what we're doing in what we've been doing in Portugal. There are these granites in Portugal which have actually sort of cooked up these rocks and drawn up these minerals out of the Earth's crust. One of which is lithium. It occurs in these pegmatites. And these pegmatite fields are some of the biggest pegmatite fields in continental Europe. The pegmatites contain the lithium. We believe that we've actually got the best areas in the best region, lithium-bearing region in Europe. And we've got a very intense drilling campaign that's underway at the moment. It was interrupted a couple of days ago because there were some quite serious fires in both Spain and Portugal. But we're back in action again, back into sort of blue skies, and we'll be certainly sort of drilling away quite aggressively over coming months. I won't labour too much on the electric vehicle market and the demand for lithium. I think that's sort of pretty clear to everyone that there's really a very tectonic change going on around what will be sort of the future composition of motor vehicle fleets globally. It's clear that the major manufacturers, major European manufacturers, made a pretty profound mistake in choosing to go diesel. They've been found out, if you like, as a result of that. And I think the other sort of key element is, I think, we as individuals, and particularly individuals like myself who live in cities like London, not particularly fond of the degree of pollution that is being imposed on us. So, I think there's a very sort of large, if you like, push by individuals for cleaner air. I think you're seeing politicians responding to that, and politicians both in London and Paris and other European cities are literally sort of banning both internal combustion engine vehicles and diesel engines from their cities. The politicians sort of clearly get it. I think business gets it even more. The VWs, Mercedes, the Fords, they're all aggressively going into sort of reconfiguring their fleets towards electric vehicles. So there's going to be sort of a very major change in the demand equation for lithium as an element. And I suppose with that comes an opportunity, and the opportunity is for the international mining industry to sort of step up and start producing far greater volumes of lithium than they've produced in the past. The international mining industry hasn't been particularly good at meeting sort of newly emerging demand. A lot of the lithium that's produced in the world at the moment comes out of these salars, or sort of brine deposits, brine lakes in South America. There are a lot of licensing problems with those. It's really more of a chemical process to produce lithium, and that sort of comes with some sort of relatively noxious byproducts, which are quite sort of problematic to store and to sort of safely retain. So really what's happened is that the obligation has fallen on the hard rock part of the mining industry to come up with the lithium supply, and a lot of that's coming out of Australia. Just in terms of the sort of demand that you will be seeing, this is lithium content in various vehicles and applications, including these things called power walls, which are essentially sort of load balancing items that are fitted into houses. So oftentimes, there's a surge of supply of electricity during the day out of solar or wind. People don't necessarily want it during the day. That excess can be stored in people's houses. At the same time, and I don't think it's illustrated here, but there's talk about literally sort of grid-scale storage of electricity using lithium-ion batteries, and that also will be a very sort of big consumer of lithium. Just in terms of our project, we've got about 1,000 square kilometres of ground. We've got actually a granted mining lease. That's very important. That means that we should be able to get into production pretty quickly. The project was originally owned by a French company called Imerys, who developed it from the point of view of producing materials for ceramics, feldspar in particular. We've taken it from them and done a lot more work. We've established that a very saleable lithium concentrate can be produced over 6% Li2O, which is the sort of hurdle level for internationally tradable concentrates. And we're doing a lot of work at the moment to prove up a substantial resource that will be able to support a long-term mine development. Good news about Portugal is that it's also very well serviced in terms of infrastructure. It's got great roads. Thank you very much to the European community for that massive investment. It's got good roads, power lines literally run right over the top of our lease, and we're about 138 kilometres from the second largest port in Portugal, in Porto as it is, and as you can see, it's a bulk port that we have there. That's the location of the tenements, right up in the northern part of Portugal, along the coast and moving across to the east. and you might be able to sort of see our mining tenement there in the centre. It's about 5 square kilometres in area. It's rather an odd shape, but it's that blue-shaped mining lease. That's the largest granted mining lease in Portugal. I think some shareholders were saying, 5 kilometres sounds a little bit small, but it's the largest mining lease in Portugal. And it comprises around about seven deposits. We've been exploring three of those, Reservatorio, Noa and Grondeo, quite aggressively, and our work has been going pretty well. One thing I just wanted to talk about, and might be a little bit boring, but there are all sorts of lithium minerals. If you're looking at investing in a lithium project, I would suggest you invest in a lithium project that sports spodumene mineral. It's the most acceptable lithium mineral internationally. That's what the Chinese want. There are these rather more oddball minerals out there. They have their own processing challenges, and generally the material is not as popular with off-takers. So look for spodumene. Needless to say, our project is spodumene. These are some of the drilling results that we've been getting. Reservatorio, we've been getting very much all-grade results over quite significant intersections, up to 30 to 35 metres in thickness. And at Grondeo, which we think is a very promising name for a prospect, we've also been getting very good results. And it looks like we've got quite a sort of flat-lying deposit there, near surface. It'll have very low stripping ratio. And we're sort of drilling it out. We're certainly finding more material. What we're probably looking at doing on this mining lease is developing a number of mines on a number of different deposits. That's very sort of consistent with the way lithium deposits work in Australia as well. And then sort of the other key thing, what we're trying to do is really demonstrate that we're the closest European analogue to these very, very successful Australian lithium miners who've been mining spodumene ore, open cut, hard rock, spodumene material, and these companies now sport very significant market capitalisations. These are some of the grades. That's some spodumene ore. If you haven't seen any before, you probably haven't, and it's pretty hard to pick, but that's spodumene. We've also got a pretty aggressive development timetable for this project. As I said, we're sort of very keen on getting out there and helping all of those struggling car manufacturers produce electric vehicles. And we hope to be in a position to make a development decision late next year. We'll be going through a whole cycle of resource drilling, coming out with an inferred resource, indicated, and finally measured reserves. This is a pretty important sort of slide. What we're really trying to do is sort of highlight that we, Savannah, with our Mina de Barroso project in Portugal, have one of the best projects in Europe. And certainly I believe it's the best listed project in Europe. Up the top, we've got three of the major Australian players. And as you can see in the right-hand column, their market caps are nice and healthy, ranging up to about 700 million pounds. But when you look through some of the other listed players here in Europe, and it's a very small list, we really sort of tick every box. We've got a granted mining lease, we've got very good infrastructure, we've got spodumene ore, and we happen to be London listed. So therein lies an opportunity. In Australia, and as you've probably guessed, I'm Australian, Australian investors have made a lot of money out of lithium investment. There are quite a number of companies that are operating there, from junior explorers all the way through to producers. There are not that many examples of listed lithium companies available in Europe for investment. We happen to be one of them. And all we're simply trying to do from an investment point of view is say we're trying to replicate what's what's demonstrably been a very successful model in Australia. We think we've got it in Portugal, and we think it's the right project at the right time as well, because you might have read in the FT a week or two ago, but the European Commission, the European Union, is very concerned about ensuring that they don't lose a march to the Asian producers who are developing a full lithium value chain from sort of mining all the way through to battery manufacture and electric vehicle construction. The EU really wants, publicly said that they want to form a Airbus-style consortium to really sort of grab this lithium value chain and develop that lithium value chain in Europe. At the upstream end, I think Savannah will be playing a very important role. Then we'll have battery chemical manufacturers, battery manufacturers, and then the motor vehicle manufacturers who will actually utilise the product. So we think we're the right project at the right time. The Portuguese government is very alive to the opportunities in lithium. They had a governmental working group looking specifically at this, and they're very excited about the opportunity to sort of encourage the development of the industry in the country. All right, so that's really the story on lithium. Just very briefly, and this is really a project for the 2020s. We've banked this away. It's the Mutamba project. It contains one of the largest resources of mineral sands globally, 4.4 billion tonnes at 3.9% total heavy minerals. Our joint venture partner on this project is Rio Tinto, and we also have a offtake arrangement with Rio Tinto. Rio, you may or may not know, has a very significant industrial facility just across the coast, just across the border in South Africa. And the idea is that mineral sands will be mined here, shipped down the coast to South Africa, and Rio will use those to produce titanium feedstocks. Titanium feedstocks are actually used in the production of paint, papers and plastics. There really has been a hiatus in the development of new mines internationally, and certainly all of the industry observers believe that there are very sound reasons why there's another large-scale mine development required internationally. We think our Mutamba project is it. So I'll skip through all of that and just conclude by saying that I think we've got a very interesting strategy. I think we've got a position, well positioned in the energy metals market with near-term production in Oman, exciting lithium opportunities in Portugal, and for the 2020s, world-class mine development. So that's the story with our company. I'd certainly welcome any questions.
Any questions, anybody? Down the front.
I know that when you have copper deposits, sometimes you get cobalt in there as well, and cobalt's often referred to as an energy metal for the next generation lithium-ion batteries. Have you got any cobalt in your copper?
No, gold and silver though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In other words, better.
Well, I don't know, but it's all helpful anyway. So they're quite valuable byproducts.
And how do you actually extract it? We've had people present here who've talked about electrochemical extraction, and particularly with tailings. Is that how you're getting it out, or is it mechanical?
It's really mechanical. It's sort of physical, crush grind and a float process. So the heavier stuff is sort of floated off and separated from the lighter stuff, which we throw away. So it's pretty simple, and it's a very sort of conventional processing technique that the mining industry has used for decades and decades.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Could you just wait for the microphone, could you? Thanks.
Why would Rio need or want to partner with you in Mozambique, it's not the shipping rates, I suppose, to get it to the coast.
Yeah. We started talking to them at a moment when I think they had publicly enunciated that they were not going to undertake any large-scale mine developments. The mining majors were rather beaten up, and investors were insisting that they marshal their cash and reserve that for shareholders. So they didn't want to undertake large-scale mine developments. They saw with us we had the possibility of doing something quite different with Mutamba, a smaller scale, lower capex, higher grade, more immediate sort of mine development. So they saw partnering with us as a way of ensuring that they could stay in the Mozambican mineral sands game. So that was the reason for it. It was actually quite an innovative deal. You don't generally sort of see juniors farming into majors projects, and it's a bit of a test case at Rio.
You just caught them at the right time.
Yep. Yep.
David, thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.